Okay, so we all know we're consuming microplastics, right? I mean, they're in our food, our water, they're pretty much everywhere. But the big question has always been, what are they actually doing once they get inside us? Well, a brand new study is starting to connect the dots, and it's looking at the impact on the trillions of bacteria that call our gut home. So let's dive in and follow these tiny invaders on their journey.
Yeah, it's a huge question, and one we should all be asking. And finally, we're getting a glimpse of an answer. This study is all about that hidden collision, right? The plastic world we've built crashing right into the microbial world that lives inside of us.
All right, first things first. To really get this, we have to understand the sheer scale of the problem. I mean, we're not just surrounded by plastic, we're practically swimming in it. And yep, it's getting inside us every single day.
So what are we talking about when we say microplastics? Well, the official definition is any plastic particle smaller than 5 millimeters. But think about it. That's fibers from your fleece jacket, tiny bits from food packaging, even those little beads that used to be in face scrubs. They are, and I mean this literally, everywhere.
Okay, but how much is actually getting in us? Well, one estimate puts the number at up to 52,000 of these little particles every single year. You've probably heard the analogy before, but it's a good one. That's like eating a credit card's worth of plastic over time, just, ground up into invisible little bits.
And that's exactly what brings us to this study. The researchers basically asked, okay, we know this plastic is getting in. So what happens when all that environmental junk meets our super complex internal biology? And they decided the best place to look for answers was the gut, the main intersection between our bodies and the outside world.
Okay, so we've met the invader. Now let's talk about the territory it's invading. And it's not just any territory. It's this incredibly vast and vital ecosystem living right inside your digestive system. So, your gut microbiome, it's not just a bunch of germs, right? It's a whole bustling ecosystem. We're talking trillions with a T of bacteria, viruses, and fungi all coexisting. A great way to think about it is like a hidden rainforest that you carry around with you everywhere you go.
And just like a real rainforest, this inner one is super important for our health, but it's also really delicate. We already know that things like pesticides and heavy metals can wreak havoc on it. So the billion-dollar question that this study is tackling is, what about microplastics? Where do they fit in?
So what happens when plastic world meets microbe world? That's precisely what a team of scientists in Zhejiang, China set out to figure out.
And their method was actually pretty simple but totally genius. They recruited 39 healthy adults. First, they took blood samples to see how much plastic was actually circulating around in their bodies. Then they analyzed stool samples to get a snapshot of what each person's gut microbiome looked like and what it was capable of doing on a genetic level.
And this is where it gets really interesting. When they put those two sets of data together, the plastic in the blood and the bacteria in the gut, some pretty shocking patterns started to emerge.
All right, let's get into the evidence. What did the data actually show about the secret life of plastics inside us?
First up, they confirmed the invasion was real. They found 5 common types of plastic just hanging out in people's blood. The most common one? Polyethylene, or PE. That's the stuff your plastic bags and water bottles are made of. It was the one they found most often and in the highest amounts.
But here is the really wild part. They compared people with high levels of plastic to those with low levels. And the difference was stark. The people with more plastic in their blood had fewer of the good guy bacteria. And worse, it seems they had more bacteria that were armed for battle, carrying more genes for what they call virulence factors. Basically, tiny weapons that help them cause harm. So how is this even happening? Well, the study suggests it might have to do with something called quorum sensing. Now, think of this like bacterial text messaging. It's how microbes chat with each other to coordinate group activities, like forming a biofilm or launching an attack. And it looks like the plastic might be scrambling those messages or maybe even amplifying the bad ones.
But just when things are starting to sound really bleak, the researchers found a twist. Something totally unexpected. It turns out this isn't a one-sided fight. Our inner ecosystem, it's fighting back.
No, you heard that right. They found bacteria in our guts that have the genes to literally biodegrade plastic. It's like our microbiome is evolving right here and now to deal with this brand new pollutant we've introduced.
And the evidence was just wow. They found a direct correlation. The more of a specific plastic someone had in their blood, say polyethylene, the more their gut bacteria had the specific genetic tools, the enzymes, to break down that exact plastic. Same for PVC, same for the others.
It's this incredible sign of adaptation happening inside our own bodies.
Okay, let's zoom out. What does this all mean for us? Why does this tiny microscopic battle matter so much?
I think if there's one thing to take away from this, it's that the danger isn't just the plastic itself. These aren't just inert little bits passing through. They seem to be active players, influencing how our own microbes behave.
And the potential consequences? They're huge. We're talking about changes to how bacteria communicate, an increase in their ability to cause harm, and a major disruption to that delicate balance in our gut. What are the long-term effects on our immune system, on our metabolism? Honestly, we just don't know yet.
So this study really opens up a whole new can of worms. It shows our inner world is adapting to plastic. We're not just victims here, there's a response happening. And that leaves us with a pretty heavy question, doesn't it? Our bodies are adapting to this plastic world we've created, but are we ready for the consequences?